There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
We've been fighting a long time, and we've all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. You are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. Above all, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Welcome back to the broadcast.
Who the hell do you think you are?
My name is Max Ballas. Give it up for me, goddammit. This is episode 1 of a brand new project brought to you from the Black Bag Resources Network. And I'm not alone. No, I would never do such a terrible thing.
Who the fuck is that guy?
You may know him from that previous podcast that we have just said goodbye to. His name is the Black Bag Resources Bagman. Give it up for him, goddammit.
That was super smooth. Let's not change it. Thank you.
Note to self, don't edit that in a better way, you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay. Now, some of you may remember this next guy as the tinfoil master himself with his own intro music, goddammit. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the one, the only, the preacher man. He is here to show us what we're not seeing, putting on the sunglasses because, yes, they do live. And he's going to show us exactly what is behind that billboard. We will obey, goddammit. Thank you for joining us, preacher. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good.
That's right, the crowd doesn't cheer for him because he is on a different level, ladies and gentlemen. His frequencies vibrate at 1.21 gigawatts because he has the power. He is...
And he's stealth mode.
532 kilohertz, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Nice.
See, I even got that wrong. I'm out of practice. I have to get it all right. All right, so this is episode 1 of what we're going to call The Broadcast, brought to you from the Black Bag Resources Network. Go.
And I guess we've got a little bit of a format to this, right? That we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening inside the network, primarily for members of the network. It'll probably be a lot of inside jokes that you don't get if you're not a member of the network, which should encourage you to join the network. And like we have this evening with Preacher being with us, we'll bring in members of the network to discuss different topics. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan,
Like it.
Hannibal. Sounds like a plan.
And I don't know if this one's sponsored by Stuff and Things, but you can go to stinkusa.com, STINCUSA.com, and see if the new to Pew coupon code still works.
Well, if I don't tell them and you don't tell them, maybe they'll find out when they listen to this wonderful first episode.
There you go.
And then they'll just change
Hi,
it.
Ian. We'll see if it gets updated. Sure.
This will let us know if they're really listening. Ah.
Uh-huh.
This will let us know.
It's all
They're always
connected, man.
listening.
Thank you, preacher. Thank you. Of course. I'm going to keep my finger on the X-Files button because it's going to be one of those nights, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be one of those nights. All right, so what are we kicking this off with?
So one of the conversations Preacher and I had earlier, and for those of you who don't know Preacher's background, he was in in the long resume that he has, one of the many things he was a firefighter and was involved in an unfortunate situation where he was burned pretty severely and lost some digits, and how the change in his hand anatomy then changes the way he engages firearms and loads firearms and does a lot of things.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting conversation, and it was it was things that I didn't think about. We're talking about an accident that happened 30 years ago. Jesus, 30 years ago, and over time, it's kind of crazy how the brain just adapts and adjusts for things. Like we were talking about today, I didn't realize until I actually started grabbing at things that on my left hand, on my right hand, I don't use my thumb at all. I grip everything with the fingers that I have left on the right hand, and I just kind of shove everything into my palm.
So
And it's,
the weightlifters will say that he uses a suicide grip on that side for pretty much everything. Like the thumb doesn't really engage much.
The advantage is I have a nice clean trigger pull because my index finger, the first digit doesn't bend, so I don't ever wrap that finger around.
Is that a cheat code? Is that a Game
It might
Genie
be.
cheat code?
It very well might be.
Yeah, but so this came up.
All it requires is a bunch of skin grafts and some other horribleness.
Right. Terrible life experience, a lot of pain, suffering, years of agony, rehabilitation, skin grafts.
But hey, I can pull a trigger good.
There you go.
Well, let me ask you. You were shooting prior to the accident, correct?
Yeah, I've been shooting since, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years old.
So, what was the adjustment process for you?
So I have to adjust. Actually, well, one of the things is heat's a big deal for me, right? Heat coming off of a barrel, heat coming off of a handguard really has an effect. I tend to like AKs because wood grips absorb more heat, and RPK absorbs more heat. And it tends to transfer through less. Even with my lever actions, I'm looking at taking my Henry Big Boy X and replacing that with wood furniture. Not that Henry gets that hot, but it's more of a comfort thing. As far as adjusting on, so I've adjusted a lot actually to shoot. I'm left-handed, but I am right eye dominant.
So wrong-handed, right eye, cross dominant, missing fingers.
Yeah.
Damn.
Total mess.
A complete and absolute mess. Yeah. I think I do okay.
Yeah, you do pretty well.
But that requires a whole, you add in the cross-eye dominance, add in the hunk of thumb that's missing. It requires different grips. It requires adjustment. Even when I come up on a new firearm, figure out what the order of operations is going to be and how it's going to work for me. I think that's something that not many people talk about in the firearms industry. Listen, there are guys out there, we've seen their YouTube channels, who do really good with a lot worse injuries than I have, right? But there's a lot of people out there, a surprising number of people missing fingers, right? And it's good for people to know that there's ways to work around that stuff.
Yeah, I think the conversation started because we were talking about a magazine loader that you were looking at.
Yeah,
and my attitude was it was kind of overrated, but
it takes me a long time to load magazines.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Because of the nature of what fingers are missing. On my left hand, I'm missing the front half of my index finger. On my right hand, I'm missing my thumb. I'm missing my pinky. Not to mention the skin grafts on top tighten everything up. So it's harder for me to grip things. So I look at it, and yeah, that was the impetus of the conversation is I look at everything through a lens subconsciously. I don't even realize that I do it most of the time. Is this going to make it easier for me to do something that should be fairly easy to begin with?
Like the big discussion with the pistol brace, how that was engineered to help people. Are there other products like that basically help guys in a similar situation?
Like we were talking about, okay, last year's range day that you were at.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we were loading mags with that flat board that you just laid the magazine onto and rolled the rounds out and
the
then you
Ouija
just
board
slammed it home?
Joint. Yep.
The Ouija board looking joint. That's what I was looking at going, that might not be bad. So yeah, there are products out there that are designed to help. And I think, one of the things that the gun community does, or the 2A community does, is they tend, myself included, we tend to look at something, and if it's not something that applies to us, we look at it as a dumb idea. But it might not be a dumb idea. It's not a dumb idea to the person who created it, obviously. It might not be a dumb idea to people who may be in the same situation as the person who created it. And I think we need to look harder at some of those things and, maybe, I don't know, try to throw our support behind something, even if it's not something that we would necessarily use, recognize that there are people out there that would use it.
And that was part of the conversation we had today too, was like, yeah, I don't see the value in buying that board for loading magazines. But I think I said this may work for you with your thumb being the way it is. It may make it a lot easier for you to load those rifle magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So again, me being an ableist, I could very easily look at that and go, well, I don't need that. But for somebody who doesn't have both thumbs, that could be a game changer and make going to the range a hell of a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's reminding me a lot of the accessibility options in video gaming. How there's certain controllers that are made for certain people with certain issues and handicaps and stuff. And I'm thinking now that may be an untapped market and lane that a company should maybe do some focus on. Like, what can we do to help certain individuals stay in the game?
I think we've seen it. I think we see it with, and forgive me, I can't remember the actual name of the product, but we'll just call it the Ouija board loader because it works.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Ouija board loader. You have pistol braces. Like they're designed for a very specific thing. Are they always used for that? But I think that's irrelevant.
Yes, they are never misused. They are always used properly for the stinking feds that might be listening. What?
Always listening. Don't forget. That was designed for a very specific purpose. And if you look at the original, the original SB Tactical braces have come a long way from that origin. You can kind of tell the manufacturers that are still putting thought and process into that. I'm going to throw out the tail hook, for example. The tail hook's a prime example of a brace that operates really well one-handed. SB Tacticals are the same.
Is that the one that's kind of like it shoots out and then has a C at the end?
Yeah, and it kind of like levers open.
It almost looks like, because I remember like there was a couple of G.I. Joes that had it and it helped fit right on there. It's almost like that kind of design?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I thought
it works really well.
I thought the Ouija board was just a speed loader to help things go faster. I didn't realize that was
maybe it is.
Reason.
I don't think it's intentionally marketed that way, but it's certainly something that could be a consideration when somebody's trying to make a purchase, right?
Yeah, and they should, honestly, they should market it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that should not solely that way, right? Like
right.
The reality is, it's designed to make things easier. And when you're loading a lot of mags, it does its job, as witnessed by all of us.
Sure.
You have one person.
I know Mike Odell liked it.
Yeah.
Over at the CMMG booth, cranking mags full. Sure.
Yep. Over and over and over and over again. If you're talking about a range day where you're loading a couple mags, well, that's not a big deal. But if you're sitting there loading 150 mags, that becomes almost a necessity, really.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
I have
interesting.
a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Tell me about your signature.
Okay, my signature. So back in the days, I played in bands, and my band at the time was named A Moment of Clarity, and we had a CD, and we went to a gaming convention, my first Comic-Con ever, and we had a table there. My bass player's brother had a gaming company, like role-playing D&D. He made a book, like a game, a whole thing. So we went there to help support him, and we brought all our CDs, and people started wanting us to sign them. So I was like, well, it's got to be art. So let me literally sit down with a piece of paper and figure out a cool way to write my name. And the bagman will tell you, like, I have a certain signature that's very noticeable, and if I explain it to you, you can see how both my names are really in the signature. And I literally practiced it because I wanted it to look cool. And it also goes back to, I remember my father and mother's signatures were interesting enough. And, you know, being that we were in the 80s, people signed things like checks and used cursive writing. So I just figured that was just part of being an adult, was having a signature. So I wanted to create one much like a logo, but there was no purple, there was no blue, no orange. You know, it's just straight text. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
I literally practiced my signature. And that comes from two.
I'm going to call bullshit because I see your signature on blue and orange and yellow and green all the time.
But it's always black, just like me. But yeah, and again, it goes back to like report cards coming home and having to be signed by your parents, and you know, having to see
taking their signatures. Yep.
Yeah. So I made it a point to have a cool looking signature when I gave my autograph to people buying my music CD.
Okay.
Yeah. So
mine
when I was
just scroll,
and it's funny
so it
because
always interests me when someone has a obviously well thought out signature.
Yeah.
Because mine is literally just my name across the thing as fast as I can do it, and that's kind of been it.
And even at work,
Make
like,
your mark and set to sea, sailor.
we have people sign their signatures on the reports that we generate on our phones, and 99.9% of the time, people just squiggle and give the phone back. It's not like people. The signature is a lost art now, since nobody gets taught cursive anymore.
Yeah, writing is a lost art.
Yep.
I thought about it recently though because I saw a video where it was a course somebody offers on how to create a more professional signature and like the whole thing. And I remember thinking of yours and going, all right, he's taking this class at some point because it's distinctive, right? And it's obviously thought out and all those good things. So
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up to touch base back with the original discussion we were having is I was meaning to ask about how, because I would see a lot of people, especially when they're doing like prone shooting and long distance shooting, they don't wrap their hand around the grip. They don't grip it, you know, both ways. It's very light, and I think it's probably like you said, it's to better engage the trigger finger and not grip and pull. And
actually, so that's to prevent an instinctual action. When you pull the trigger, you tend to grip the grip harder. By doing so, if you're shooting long distance, you're applying torque to that grip. So when you see people put their thumb on the side of the receiver or just disengage it altogether and just use their lower three fingers wrapped around the front, that's to prevent any kind of torque from the back, which would throw the shot off from the front. And feel free to correct me, Bagman, if I got that wrong.
No, you're spot on. So in handgun shooting, it's referred to as lobstering, where you're gripping, right? You're squeezing the grip at the same time you're pulling the trigger like a lobster claw. And you know, you apply that principle to long distance shooting. What you do a little bit has a big effect downrange. Yeah, that's why that's done.
And I just tend to do it naturally. That's all.
Right.
There's a disadvantage to it too, though, right? There's a disadvantage if you're trying to move with your rifle. You know, just gripping with the your lower three fingers is not a good thing. You want to have a grip on that, but typically in those situations, you're not shooting at something 700 yards away. You're shooting at something.
These guys are all laying
200
down,
yards
taking their
in.
time. Yeah, it's not an immediate action kind of situation when I've been seeing this thing, but it stood out to me since I was focusing on grip and maintaining stability, and I'm like, why are these guys just doing it like that? But then hearing your story, it started to make sense. So I just wanted to, in case somebody else had that odd thought that I did of why these guys gripping it so differently. But it's logical. Like you said, you don't want to add any torque or any extra muscle movements to it. You just want that.
They're trying to remove the human variable out of it.
The other thing we could touch on is what Preacher does in the network between tracking world events, his occasional Foil Friday posts with the conspiracy theories, and sometimes they're very humorous, and other times it's like, hey, here's something that might make you think.
Preachers are men in a chair, quite literally.
That's also a big role that he fills. Yeah,
Quite literally, yeah.
Just a lot of research. Yeah, so Foil Fridays are actually kind of hard right now because
so many of them are coming true.
there's no.
Well, you notice the Onion is no longer posting anything because the shit that they were making up wasn't half as ridiculous as what's going on.
Thing, right? Like, it's hard to come up with to find a good conspiracy that can be viewed in the traditional sense of what a conspiracy theory was, right? Like, oh, look at this. This is weird. Let's discuss the potentialities that could come of it, or
try to link all these little pieces together to make one continuous narrative.
There's no point because the links are open and the links are out there, and I mean,
and it's all connected. Cue the music.
There's not enough string for his string board anymore. Quite literally.
Listen. If the CIA's been doing bad shit in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, you can't tell me that they're not doing bad shit now. Oh no, nothing's changed, but you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, actually, I'm just taking history for, documented history and applying it to today.
Right. And not ignoring the fact that what's a conspiracy theory for 30 years then is in a released document way after the fact, and they basically go, yeah, we did it. The fuck are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So
what are they going to say 30 years from now?
Will QAnon go down as the last conspiracy theory? Like this is where it ended? Since everything is so, like, for lack of a better term, like open now? Like that, the whole Q concept of, like, yeah, you're just crazy, but people... You know what I'm saying? Like, was that...
I don't even know if that's a Q... Like,
was that the last one?
I don't even know if that's a QAnon thing, right? Like, if I remember correctly, QAnon was started as a joke. Like, it was started as a
like a Reddit thing?
4chan sub...
4chan, yeah.
Yeah, 4chan sub-channel, just to fuck with people, or mess with people, sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, you're allowed to curse on this show.
Yeah, no, just to fuck with people. And it turned into... this, I don't know, this boogeyman, right? It's the Baba Yaga of conspiracies. It's running around in the woods in a hut with chicken legs, like.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as soon as a quote unquote conspiracy theorist gets any one little piece wrong, it all gets thrown out, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, nothing matters at that point because you got one thing wrong. You could have gotten the last 800 things right, but as soon as you get one wrong, you're completely discredited. So, I don't know.
The Nostradamus effect.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, he got all these things right, but this one wasn't so right, so throw it all out.
Right. If only we were as forgiving with conspiracy theorists as we are the weatherman.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
And, like, I think I've brought this up to probably both of you guys off air, but, like, the whole concept of the tinfoil hat, people don't realize that tinfoil is conductive, but... the concept of the tinfoil hat is to block the rays from
it's supposed to be an insulator, not a conductor. Yeah,
right.
Well, I think lead hats kind of fell out of fashion at a certain point, right?
Lead
would work.
Maybe.
Think about way back in the day when you had to take film on an airplane and you put it in a lead-lined bag to go through the X-rays. It blocked the X-rays.
Yeah,
it's like Magneto's helmet.
Yeah, so I don't think people want to wear lead hats.
So they just opted for tinfoil and...
Yeah, opted for tinfoil,
kept having their brainwaves read by the NBA.
It was in... Listen, you're talking about stopping the brainwaves, so, them going to the kitchen and pulling out the foil isn't a far stretch.
Yeah.
Now, if they would hook up a ground to it and then ground it, then it would probably work.
Little ground plane on top of your peak.
Think about it. What's a Faraday cage?
Keep the waves out.
Faraday cage is any kind of metal that's just grounded.
Is that why
And
Oscar
completely-
the Grouch lives in a garbage can?
Ah, look who's here. Well, don't say anything, just listen up. You might just learn something. Look at this. This is a cellular phone that I just got.
Yeah, man, he knows what's up.
Think about it, bro. Think about it.
He's hiding from the feds.
That's right. That's right. He's in the witness protection program.
What did Oscar know?
Wow.
Big Bird's not so big, man. I'm going to bring him down. I'm going to bring him down.
I love trash, and I may have information that leads to the arrest of Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was watching Snuffleupagus.
He knew the truth about Snuffleupagus.
Yep.
He knows what killed Gordon. He knows what killed Gordon, bro. I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's a whole series right there.
Yeah.
That's a whole book series.
His garbage can goes down to a series of underground tunnels.
Oh, of course.
It does.
Because you notice, the garbage can pops up in different places, like a Mario pipe. So he just pops up over here by Luis's store, goes over here to see Gordon. Yeah.
Wait, did his can move?
Yeah.
I bet
there
you
were,
it had to.
So there were a couple of different things. One, the can would show up in different places. And two, you had Sully who carried the can around for him sometimes.
Oh, his handler.
Right?
He had a handler.
He had a handler. He had his bodyguard. He knows they're onto him. He knows he needs protection from the biggest guy on Sesame Street that he can trust. Not
Right.
that fluffy bird that's obviously in on everything.
Oh, the fluffy bird's totally in on everything. He's a drone.
That long neck
Birds
is just an
aren't real.
antenna. That's what the neck is. It's all just one big ass antenna. There's
Yeah.
broadcasts coming off.
He
of
was
it.
a repeater station.
Oh my god!
That's why he moved around for better.
Of course,
signal.
the bird's a repeater. Big Bird's a repeater.
He's the master controller.
The neck is antenna. He's half parrot. It checks out.
Let's go. It's time. We got to rewrite Sesame Street.
Oh, God.
Conspiracy.
Just so everybody
Street.
knows, this is our conversations like when we're on a car ride together. It is nothing but this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But they can't prove us wrong. That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
We're not disproven. Nobody has proven us wrong yet.
Not yet.
We welcome the challenge, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Yep. There's another sticker. Hey, Kirk, get on it. Big birds aren't real either. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out the sponsors we mentioned earlier. Check out the website, blackbagresources.com. And if you really want to go deep and join the community, check out the Black Bag Resources Network. Thanks for listening.